Good morning, good night, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank again Webrazzi for having me here today. And I'm thrilled to be here. I think Istanbul is a very vivid and phenomenal environment for innovation. And remember, the sun is always shining above the clouds. So don't be shy and continue to work on innovation. Corporations have to innovate to survive. And innovating is very difficult. And if you look at what happened over the last 2 decades, a lot of companies have disappeared. And now a lot of companies are basically looking at investments and building corporate venture capital funds. However, if you look at that in the US, companies tend to disappear very quickly. Old companies that had about 100 years of existence disappeared. They've been replaced by companies like Google, Amazon, Facebook, and many others. The banking industry has been disrupted, and now the average is about 15 years. And I believe that the time of existence of the new companies will disappear. So innovation is really, really difficult. So corporations, companies are looking for innovation. And basically, startups are the new corporate R&D. But what does it mean exactly? So often, when you are a corporation, it's so difficult to work with startups. There is a distortion of information, of expectations, of financing. You don't exactly what the value is going to be brought to you, and you don't know where the money sometimes is going. You don't even know which value as a corporation it may bring to you. For those who have started a CVC, basically a corporate venture capital fund, they don't even know if they're investing for strategic returns or investment returns. So it's very difficult. Also, when you're a startup, and I think that a lot of you guys here are entrepreneurs, have your own startup, the clock is not ticking at the same speed for everyone. When you're a startup, you're thinking month per month. You don't even know sometimes how you're going to pay the bills or your employees at the end of the month. Corporations are different. They are rigid. They have their own SOPs. They have their boards. They have their shareholders, and so forth. So finding ways to work very efficiently with each other is very difficult. And sometimes, as we have seen before, I did not understand everything has been said, everyone believes that they innovate. However, they do that in a very, sometimes, chaotic way. So now if you look at the innovation ecosystem, and specifically from the eye of corporate venturing, it's a very complex world. So on the top, you have basically the powerhouse, which is basically the company, building value. So you have shareholders. Shareholders are very, very important people. They put money all the time. They expect returns, and they want security. Then they have the board trying to look at what the future would be. And then at the end, you have basically consumer or customers. And this world has been changing drastically over the last 2 decades. We are now into a very digital world, artificial intelligence. Some jobs will change and disappear, and corporations will again disappear if they don't take actions now. So they came with basically what's in red and blue, innovation teams, center of excellence, working with incubators, working with outposts in Silicon Valley or Boston or somewhere else. But which values they bring? How can you work with as well universities when you have to work with tech transfer offices about dealing with IP and many other things? How do you work with incubators? How can you find, beside demo days, that a company will bring value to you today and not in 5 or 6 years? How can you make sure that you're not competing with the internal business units? And that's a quandary. We all know that innovation is driven by necessity. If you don't have a necessity, you will not innovate. And a lot of big companies have basically books full for the next few years, so they don't think about innovation, right? I give you an example. Airbus, for the next 10 years, they will sell airplanes. They are not very much, in a way, on principle, driven by innovation, but they have to. And if you look at Airbus Ventures, they had a few difficulties recently in the Bay Area because they hired someone from Silicon Valley that perhaps was not the best fit with the company culture and the objectives. And the problem is to know when to have to reinvent yourself. Look at Xerox, look at Kodak. You know, they never thought that digital pictures would basically become the standards. Now, do you need exactly a big camera? No, you have amazing phones. Everyone is connected. Everything is digital. So knowing when to reinvent is the key for survival. This is very much a first step for the future. Now the problem is we've seen that everyone has different, I would say, perspectives and expectations about what the future would be, what the position of the company should be, how to work together. How can you make sure that everyone is aligned within a company? How can you make sure that you can work with different types of people, engineers, marketing people, salespeople, all together so that you can be aligned and consistent and bring value immediately to your company? I think a very good example is if you look at the fintech industry, for many, many, many years, banks were thinking that they were untouchable, that they will dominate the world, that they would stay forever the same thing. And we've seen before, I believe that there is the world of digitalization that came, artificial intelligence. If you look at JP Morgan, they have replaced 150 lawyers working full-time for a year with one machine that does the work for that in about a minute or so. So they realized that they had to work together so that they could be more efficient. So they tried different things. And I think that it's really a way to reinvent itself. Well, see, being close to the action doesn't mean that you will have a piece of the action. So many companies have outposts in the Bay Area. So many companies expect that they could find the best technologies. It would be so easy to integrate within the company. This is not true. It's very difficult. Again, there is a distortion. How can you make sure that a very lean startup with an amazing technology can fit into your company culture and bring value immediately to you? And as has been said today, and when we're discussing, you know, I'm in the venture capital business since now 10 years, and my specialty is really very much turning around companies. I'm a fixer. And it's a struggle to talk with startups. It's super difficult. You don't understand sometimes what they want. The time is different, as we've seen, and expectations and results are very different. It's like giving a blank check to someone, and you expect and you hope that something will be delivered. So how can you build a shared understanding as well? And how can you make sure that you can bring value immediately to your company? We have seen open innovation. Open innovation is very difficult as well. You have a lot of ideas coming in. How can you vet the technologies? How can you make sure that, again, you will have value for your shareholders? How can you make sure that you will get value for a company that will be disruptive in a few years? I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, I restructured a consortium of banks, a few banks, based in Switzerland. And basically, they have invested a lot of money, millions, for developing a platform that would allow a secure exchange between banks and basically trading companies. However, they were almost bankrupt. They said, we don't want to give any more money to that project because, well, which value does it bring? Users are not using that. So basically, we have involved prospects, we have involved users, we have involved all these stakeholders along the value chain to build a product that was exactly what they wanted. We did not write a line of code without having exactly all the workflow being fully designed. So we knew exactly what was expected, what would be delivered. So we drastically reduced operations by 50% and investment on products by 75%. Now the product has been deployed in North America and in Asia. And they have continued on the same process to include now basically ING and Société Générale, two major banks, and Mercuria, who's a leader in oil and gas trading, to use blockchain. And they will use other companies, for instance, certifications and others, in the concept, because they realized that the blockchain was the best technology because it's a world of transaction, and they had to follow transactions. So if you want to read, there is an article I've written a year ago also, that explained how you can combine basically deep learning, machine learning, Internet of Things, and big data into the commodity trading. So it's available on LinkedIn if you are interested. Often, when you're a startup or even a bigger company, you forget about policies and how policies may impact innovation. We all know Uber. We all know how the Airbnb has disrupted the hotel business. But did you consider as well, when you give away your blood or your saliva or any type of tissues you may have that can be used to build new medications, to find biomarkers, to find personalized medicine? And here's the value, the quandary. Basically, you may find with the Open Data Initiative amazing results to save people, to be very efficient. However, it's about the cost of the privacy. How can you make sure that what has been found about you is not something that is going to be turned into you? So privacy is something that is going to have a huge effect in the future, I believe. As we mentioned, few companies now are getting all together to innovate. Some are looking at technology and they're experimenting with that. And I think that you all know the R3 Consortium, which is a blockchain consortium that has about 80 banks, major banks, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and others. After spending $60 million, they realized that they didn't want to have a blockchain technology because they were just using blockchain technology to test it, to try it. Highly ineffective. They were looking at open innovation, they were looking at hackathons and so forth, and it didn't work. So now the next step is to use, against consortium, technologies within applications. And the Hyperledger project is another project based on blockchain, but that case is different. They're using blockchain technology and they try to apply that so that it can work. It can have real applications. They try to change the blockchain technology to make it usable. So it's a consortium. You have to pay a fee to join. But what's very interesting with the model is that the technology is vetted by all the members. So basically, you are sure that what is deployed is in direct link and connection with the problems you want to solve. So it's a drastic change already in things. And by the way, in the example I was mentioning before, R3, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and other banks, such as HSBC as well, have left the consortium and have joined those guys. So I think it's very important to use technology as a way to solve problems and not the other way around. Now you can even consider, instead of looking at technology, you may say, okay, what is my challenge? What is the problem I want to solve in my corporation? Which kind of value does it bring to me? And why should I do that? Which story can I tell to my shareholders so that I can build a better company tomorrow? And to be technology agnostic. You just want to find something that works, not something that is fancy or just very, very hot. ITF stands for Innovation Technology Facilitator. And it's very much an idea that came out about 20 years ago almost. So a lot of people say that the oil and gas industry is very conservative, but it's not. And so basically, again, you have to pay a fee, a membership fee to join. People who are competitors, you may have people like Shell or ExxonMobil all together and say, oh, I have a problem. My problem is to drill, but not in straight line, going around. So they find that challenges, they found that challenges, and they found solutions from either startups or SMEs or even other companies. Highly successful. Success rate is about 90%. 90% of the projects that were funded came into application in the field. So it's really, really outstanding. So they had, so far, about 200 projects. So I think that when you have a consortium, it's very much changing that. Now, you may have value chains where you have business, technology matching together. So you can apply the ITF model. You may look on the left, the business case, then you're going to find the best technologies, and then you're going to find the best companies delivering. It's a solution-driven problem. It's innovation by necessity. Now, imagine that you have this concept, and that's basically an evergreen investment fund. So you leave other people, because ITF is closed. You have to be a member of the oil and gas community. In that case, you may have a system where you use the same concept optimized for any corporations looking for innovation, any corporation looking for results immediately, every corporation looking for basically knowing where the money goes. And that's my last venture. That's the Mu initiative. And so it's basically innovating all together. So you have to be a member, you can be an observer, you come, you share your problems, and we help you to find the technology that exactly suits what you need to address. So it's very much about the inception and covering the last mile, combining open innovation, combining hackathons, combining all that, and leaving other investors willing to come, like CVCs or even corporations that doesn't want to become a corporate venture capital fund, to be part of it. And I think that that's really important to see that evolution. For instance, we can mention the airline industry. If you look at the example of supply chains, the pharma industry, the insurtech, legal tech. Now compliance for banking industry is getting very difficult. You know, if you are not compliant, if you don't know well your customers, you're going to be fined heavily, especially if you have any business in the US. So I think that this way of operating will give value and bring the best of breed so that you have solutions that can be delivered immediately. So if you have any questions, you can drop me a line, and I will be more than happy to try to answer to you. Thank you very much for your attention and your time.